Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wild Woman Podcast. I'm delighted today to have Kimberly Montgomery with me from Florida in the US of A. And I came across Kimberly quite a while back. She has her own YouTube channel, Journey to the New Earth, and I loved the title of it. And I found myself just dipping in, and I've been just going from interview and video, and I was really taken by the energy of what she is doing. So I had to reach out and invite her on the podcast. So, firstly, Kimberly, welcome. It's such a
Oh,
pleasure to have you here.
it is so thrilling to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. From one person, we were just chatting before we came on air, and we might start there, Kimberly. Just we were talking about what led us to starting a podcast, because I've said it many times that I this sort of happened very organically about a year ago. No plans, no thoughts to do it, and it just happened. So I have to ask you, what led you to start to go on this journey with the podcast?
It
Yeah.
isn't it funny? Spirit works in such interesting, fascinating, and very clever ways. And they plan things well in advance. That's what I'm catching on to. I actually started a channel very similar to Journey to the New Earth about 6 years ago. And what I did was I interviewed mediums because I was so fascinated with mediumship and near-death experiences and just people who are able to touch a different frequency, a different level of reality. It just fascinated me. So I started this channel and I interviewed mediums, and I'm telling you what, it went nowhere, just nowhere. I think
Really?
even today it has like 600 subscribers or something. And I was thinking about it and I thought, well, this kind of isn't working. And so I had an idea that I would start a skincare and beauty channel for over 50 women because I needed help. And I thought, you know what? I wonder if I can do this all at home, not go get surgery and Botox and fillers and that sort of thing. I wonder if it would work. And I thought that was a worthy project. So I launched on this YouTube channel for over 50 women to see if I could fix my skin at home without going through procedures to document it. And that channel has ended up being very successful and has been a lot of fun. And I've been doing it for 5 years. Well, lo and behold, about almost a year ago now, I started getting that little voice in your head. You need to start a spiritual channel. You need to start it. And I'm like, I'm really busy right now. I'm happy. I got lots to do. And it just wouldn't leave me alone. And finally, I all of a sudden had that realization, and I'm getting goosebumps now, so that tells me I'm on the right track, that I was given the beauty channel to get me really comfortable in front of the camera and to be really fine with the platform. And they helped me make it a big success. I don't take any credit for it. And then now it was time. It's time to now do the spiritual channel. And so they bugged me for about 3 or 4 months. And I finally said, okay. And the niggling in my head stopped. Isn't that funny how that happens?
Yeah.
So I thought about it and I thought, what do I really want to do? What I really want to do is not just interview mediums, not just interview psychics, not just interview people who've had near-death experiences, although those are a part of the channel. What I wanted to do was really document the journey that we're going on here on planet Earth. We are the greatest show in the universe right now. And there are so many collectives that get up in the morning, pour their, cup of coffee and watch, the soap opera that is Earth because we're going through such a dramatic shift on the planet. And I thought if I could document that shift and help people work through it, know they're not alone, they're not feeling things that other people aren't feeling, uncovering the true nature of our reality, which is very different than what we've been told, and kind of set us up to really launch into the new planet we're going to be inhabiting and the new humans that we're going to be, wouldn't that be a fun journey? So that's what I'm doing. And that little voice in my head is much quieter now. So it
Onto
had
the next phase. I know.
yeah.
I can relate. I can relate. I had exactly, I think that's how we're designed to live. When you talk about the new human that we're moving into being, to me, that is really coming back into our bodies, our feeling state, our sensing state. And that is where everything we need to know about what's next comes, isn't it? Whereas we have been conditioned to be up here, which can be manipulated and can't it? It's, it's a very different, it's a big shift, isn't it? It's a very, can I ask you, for just for someone who might be listening, I'd have a variety of listeners, and I think many people, in whatever way they sense it, will sense something is going on. So how did you firstly discover or start to understand there's something happening, and when did that start to happen for you?
Yeah, that is such a good question because I
Mm.
feel like we're in so many different stages here on the planet. Some people are just keep hitting the snooze button, don't want to see anything. They just keep hitting that snooze button. And then there's some people that have been awake and aware since they were born, and then there's others that come along the way. I realize that my guides, the people that work with me that aren't in physical, were just sort of really clever. They brought it on very slowly for me. I started meditating. I would get these huge energy downloads. I had very, very dramatic meditations. And then I started getting curious. And that was when, you could watch videos on the internet, about other things and maybe expanded realities. I was fascinated with near-death experiences and would buy every single book that came out and read it 2 and 3 times. They would just fascinate me, and I wanted to talk to all my friends about it, and they didn't could care less. And then I just started going down a road because my curiosity was piqued, and I know I was being a little bit pushed. And I look back now and realize that I was getting set up along the way to have the curiosity or the information that I was going to need for the next step. So what happened for me is I'm watching these videos, I'm starting to follow different people. I'm starting to just be aware that maybe things are a little bit different than what I thought they were. And then I watched that, oh gosh, I think it's like a 12-hour lecture by David Icke that he did in Wimbledon,
Oh, yes.
in the
Yeah.
UK. And I don't even know why I watched it because I wasn't really sure if David Icke was a lunatic or not.
I think
And I
that's what,
watched
yeah.
I watched the whole thing, but I watched it in like little bits and pieces. Like I'd watch an hour and a half here and then I'd watch 2 hours and I'd watch another hour and a half and this and that. And when I was done, I didn't really form an opinion right away because he really does tell the whole story from the beginning to now of how we got to where we are. I didn't really form an opinion. I just thought that's interesting. And I kept it in my mind and I kind of molded around. And then fast forward, I was living in a little studio apartment overlooking the ocean in Northern California, really having this kind of, oh, sort of monastic, lifestyle. I was doing meditating an hour or two a day, going for hikes in the forest. It was just a very quiet, very introspective, peaceful time. And that was when COVID started. And I remember standing, looking out the picture window at the ocean, and all that information from David Icke came pouring back. And I went, here we are. And here we go. And all of a sudden, it all made sense. Everything that he had explained, all the other information that I was aware of. And I just knew what was going on, that this was very different than what was being played out in the media, what we were being told, what we were being the compliance that we had to participate in, just so much. And to be honest with you, because I had that information and it felt so comfortable for me, I was stunned and shocked when everyone around me fell for it. I couldn't believe it. I'm looking at them like, "Are you really? You believe all this? Really?" And even these little hippie mamas, I was up in Northern California where the hippies still live. Yes, they still do live there. These little hippie mamas were like, staying, 6 feet distance away from me and wearing their little masks and stuff. And I thought, oh my goodness. So that really kicked it off. And the interesting thing is if you're watching this and you're kind of new to your journey, what I can say is, golly, it just never stops unfolding because I still get realizations every day about a new form of control, a new mechanism that was used to limit our belief in ourselves, a new way that we were diminished or made to feel less than or controlled. It's just really fascinating how complete the control system is on this planet and how we're waking up to it. And now we're kind of in, we're kind of in the moment where I think the people are going to start waking up. We're going to start having unity within the populace because we're going to see, oh my goodness, all this division was just contrived. So it's exciting for me all at once. I mean, it is a little distressing, but we're not finding out about anything that has been going on for decades. We're just learning about it. And boy, once you bring it to light, it can be healed. So that was kind of my process. To say that I'm all the way there, long ways from it. But everyone I talked to, you included, and you described it so nicely before we came on, that those of us who are doing these channels and having these conversations, we're building a web, and we're building a web not only with each other, but with you watching. We're building the web and we're creating these communities. And that's where the power really lies, the unlimited power of humanity. So I'm very excited about that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it really is. It's really come to me as well, that sense of, someone said it to me the other day. It's like we're transmitters. We're all transmitters. What are you transmitting? And the more, out into the world, because we're all frequency, we're all energy. I think we're all understanding that. I mean, for anyone, I often say, just think of, if you find that hard to, to really go, yeah, we're all energy, go into a room where maybe there's a situation and you go, oh, I don't think I can be here. I mean, that will tell you enough about your power and the energy that we pick up on it. It's so, so real. Um, and it does feel like a very exciting time, I think, right now, as well as challenging at the same. It's like, when you said when you start to see it, it's like nearly, say, finding out that someone you're in having a relationship with is having an affair, and there's no unseeing
Or
it.
has a whole other family.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just an affair, it's an affair and a
Yeah.
whole other
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. Yeah. And what stage, so when you talk about, and we talk about the systems of control, I think this is very interesting. Can you talk a little bit about that again? I think it's really important for people to start, once we start shedding a little bit of light, or even just bringing something, maybe someone that there's a little spark in them going, yeah, I'm feeling really uncomfortable with some aspect of my life. So maybe, can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the systems or areas that you've been seeing that are repressing, I suppose, who we truly are and as
Yeah.
human beings?
Yeah, isn't that the truth? And it's not just in Ireland, and it's not just in the US, it's global. I mean, and the thing that fascinates me, and I have to give, the controllers credit, they did a pretty darn good job, because it's so pervasive that it's hard to see in the beginning. And you're right, it starts with that little sense of dissatisfaction or frustration, like something doesn't feel right here. And it's so interesting for me to watch it because I not only get to watch it in myself, but I get to watch it in the population around me. And, with my beauty channel, it seems so funny to talk about a beauty channel on this channel, but it does give me the opportunity to really watch where the collective is. And I'm noticing a couple of things that are really cool. I'm noticing that people are they've got a hair trigger. They're very quick to judge, criticize, get angry, blah, 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 which to me is actually a good sign because that shows me that they're no longer stuffing down that discomfort. They just don't know where it belongs yet. That anger or that dissatisfaction. It doesn't belong at me. It doesn't belong at other people. It belongs at the controllers. They'll get there. And then the other side is people who are seeing it, that are seeing the control grid. And it's not only from the governments and from the media and from the corporations and from the medical industry, but everything. They're seeing the control system and the diminishment of the power of humans and how we've been continually demoralized over the decades in all kinds of different ways. They're seeing that, they're waking up to it, and they're choosing to have a happy life instead. So I see people, and these are, women in my life that it's like they're just done with it. They're done with all the drama. They're done with the fear. They're done with this. They're going to go hike or they're going to go play a game of tennis with a friend. They're just checking out of all the controlling and they're starting to take charge of their lives. And I think both of those instances are a beautiful example of the process that humans go through. Where I'm at now, it's like first when you wake up to this, you realize, oh, maybe the government really doesn't like me. Maybe they really aren't looking out for me, and you kind of think maybe they are just, after money and power and control, and that's the first thing. And then you realize, oh, the medical system, maybe they haven't been about my health. Maybe it's just a corporation, an industry that needs constant money. So you get in that system and you almost never get out. So then all of a sudden you start eating better. You start taking care of your body. You stop falling for the thing that you got to go in for a million tests to find out that you've got a rash. So it's all those little things. And the thing that fascinates me is, once you identify maybe the government really isn't working for me, maybe, the corporations really are greedy and they don't care about their consumers. They just want the money. And maybe the health care that we've been told is really good for us isn't. Maybe the food guidelines are really designed to keep us fat and sick so that we're better, you know, client for the medical industry.
Keep the
When
business
you
going.
keep the business going. I mean, those are
Good
the
business
main
model.
things. Yeah, those are the main things. But then you start seeing all the subtle things. And that to me is like, it's almost funny to me at this time because I don't buy into it. So I don't feel threatened by it. I mean, it kind of makes me laugh. But one thing that I do want to talk about, and I'm going to bring this up because it bubbled up in my mind the last couple of days. And I think, okay, well, it's bubbling up because I need to talk about it. Again, on my beauty channel, regardless of what kind of video I will post over there will be at least one or two people in the comments that will tell me that whatever it is I'm going to doing, that whatever it is I'm doing in that video is going to kill me or one of my animals. Oh my gosh, you bought that houseplant. That's toxic to cats. Your cat's going to die. And it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. There is someone who's going to tell me that death is imminent for me or my cat or my dog, which to me, it just is such a brilliant illustration at how we have been terrified for decades. We have been kept in fear. We have been terrorized. We have been told everything is going to harm us, injure us, kill us, when we are these incredible, powerful beings with unlimited potential and this amazing energy that is unlimitedly creative. We are so much more, and yet people are still caught in that constant fear. And when I see that, I go, wow, that's, the programming has really worked. So, and then, what it brings up in me is like, okay, what am I worried about? If I'm
Mm.
seeing it, there's part of that in me. So then
Mm,
I've got to deal with that. So it's
yeah,
endless. It is endless the ways in which we have been limited, but isn't it funny and isn't it interesting that now we're moving into a higher energy place in the universe, in the galaxy? It's not working anymore. It's
yeah.
just not. People are seeing it. And people like you and I are like almost laughing about it at this point.
It's yeah, it really is, isn't it? It feels energetically, it's like even if you've been very numbed, I lived quite numbed for many years because just different things that happened in my life that were all being shaken out of it. So as you said, it could be that, okay, I'm starting to see this, but also it could be I'm feeling really unhappy in my job or in this relationship, or I'm feeling a lot of stress. Like it is showing, and I don't say this in any light way to upset anyone, it just, but what's, again, as you said, what I'm noticing also, every time I think, okay, I see something more, then something else comes up in me. It's really this journey of like, there's so many layers in that, as you said, there's the layers of seeing what's going on outside, which ultimately I suppose we've all created because we are the creators. This is what we're learning and how powerful we are. And then there's also, yeah, as well as that, there's that unraveling or unlayering of who we are. So can you talk? I think it's really because I meet people and I've been there myself where you feel very powerless in your life. You could be in a situation now for whatever reason and so buried in fear, and I have to pay all the bills and I can't see a way out of this and I know something's wrong. That's what happened to me. And it ended up then in a diagnosis of cancer and I was rattled out of it. But it really, as difficult as it was to go through it, I wouldn't change it because it started that unraveling. So, what would you say, Kimberly, to somebody, you know, it's one, and I'm saying it's wonderful. It's good to talk about this. And then for anyone who may be in that position going, I sort of get what you're saying, but I really don't know what can I do or what am I capable of? Anything
Yeah,
to give?
what a great question.
Mm,
Beautifully put. And I know that so many people are having that experience now because we're in the thick of it right now. And it's so funny. And I'll share this story. I won't say any names. I had a friend, sort of a friend, an acquaintance, who a year ago called me an anti-vaxxer, sent me an email a few days ago about, the health implications of the product Appeal, that a lot of people who are awake and aware are saying, stay away from that stuff. So when I think about the journey that she had to take from calling me an anti-vaxxer to sending me information about Appeal, I mean, that's a long ways in my mind. And I knew that she was opening. It's like a flower bud opening. And what I can say, if you're watching and you're just kind of like, something's not right here, or I'm kind of thinking maybe the government isn't fair, be gentle with yourself because you have guides that are working with you and they are dropping little hints and little tips and little things in front of you to lead you along the path that you need to go. And whatever you're interested in, whatever sounds fun, whatever the next cool thing is that you're inspired to do, that's where you need to go because they are walking you down the path that's going to be the best for you to walk through this, what's coming up. Just stay open, stay curious. Nothing's going to overwhelm you or knock you over like a huge wave. They're not going to let that happen. You may have instances where you uncover a whole lot at once and it's uncomfortable and it's a little rattling. I know that happened for me, happens to a lot of us along the way, but you'll be able to handle it. It's just a gentle process because you will learn everything you need to learn in this lifetime if you just stay open. And once you recognize that you don't have to be afraid of everything, maybe you just take one thing away a day, like, "Oh, I'm not going to be afraid of that anymore, or I'm not going to worry about that anymore. I'm going to put that one thing aside." It just opens up a whole new world. And it's almost as though you've been in a dark, dingy room that doesn't smell very good and it's too hot, and someone cracks open the door and that cool breeze comes through and you see a little ray of sunshine and you start moving forward. And boy, that new world that you're going to walk into is all at once interesting and fascinating and inspiring.
Oh, that's beautiful. Isn't it the words of Rumi? I think the wound is where the light enters you. And have you
Yes.
heard that? I included that in my book that I wrote after cancer because it often is, isn't it? It's I had that feeling of what you described before. I remember thinking, if this is it, if this is this life, I want off the planet.
Yeah, I
And
went out.
yeah, and I think many people, it's we because of the fact that we're discovering how powerful we are, what I sense and how beautifully you put it there, that when you're feeling like that and there's a little crack and something is calling you, we have to participate. I suppose that's my point, isn't it? That this, as difficult as where you are might be right now in your life, just one thing, like you said, one even small thing that you do different and go, yeah, I'd love to just go and sit on the beach or I'd whatever it is. And that can be because that's exactly what happened to me. And that's exactly, I think, what's happened to everyone I've spoken to. It does seem to be a common theme, doesn't it? That
Yeah.
just did and it sounded like for you, even though I know there can be moments that are challenging, that it sort of has unfolded like that as well. Has it in a
Yeah.
sort of more gentle with sometimes little
Yeah.
let's say moments.
It's like I
Mm.
I I have this visual in my head of my guide sitting up there, filing their nails like, "Okay, just push her a little more. Okay, good." For them, it's a piece of cake, and we're like, "Okay, what's next?" I have found that the most beneficial thing that I can do in any given day is that which sounds like the most fun. And if I do that, if I just follow the fun, it's seamless. And it's almost like and you know this, I know you've had days like this
Mm.
where you just get in the flow and you just flow from one thing to the next
It's
and everything just
glorious.
it's glorious.
It is glorious.
It's like the most delicious golden honey light that you'll ever, and you just float from one thing to the next. And he's like, "Oh, what sounds fun now? And what sounds fun now?" Once you get there, and it doesn't mean I'm there all the time. Lord knows, it's like I fall out of it. But when I'm there, it's easier to get there now, to
Yeah,
get back in it. Yeah.
yeah. That flow, I for sure have experienced it and how people show up as well. The right people show up in every situation. We both talked about how we were drawn to our podcasts and different things. Everything that I'm doing since I had cancer has come from letting go and just asking and listening, you know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what
It's that
you're
letting go. And
mm,
it's funny. I see I see people's focus shifting everywhere. I have a couple of girl friends that they play a game called pickleball. I don't know if they play pickleball in Ireland. It's like a miniature version of tennis.
okay.
And it's a huge rage here in the US. I mean, it's like it's the thing. Everybody's doing it, the thing. And I have a couple of girlfriends that do the thing, and they were both very, very competitive pickleball players. Very competitive. Both of them, and they don't know each other. Both of them have lost their competitive desire. They still love to play. They just could care less if they win, which is a dramatic shift when you
Mm.
think about that. And I see this everywhere. I see people just participating regardless of the outcome, which is so beautiful because we have been trained since birth that to be outcome oriented. Like you've got to win, you've got to do your best, you've got to da 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 da. And people are saying, no, I just want to have fun. I just want to have fun and do it. I don't care if I win. I don't care if I, get the prize. I just want to participate. And that to me, I think is a beautiful shift
Wow.
because that's where our power is. Our power is just being and living in that energy of who we are. So,
Yeah. I love, yeah, for sure. Isn't that truly to me is such a big shift that you describe there. And it is the difference. I remember it's more than 10 years ago in my job, and suddenly this realization out of nowhere came over me that the boss in the office, I don't think there'll be anyone listening. I'm not there anymore, anyways. I just went to someone. This is about divide and conquer. I just remember those words. I've no idea why I said them. I'd never heard anyone else said them, but I knew because I felt this is not the way we're meant to be living. And this, every time we were happy in the office, one of us was called up, there'd be a meeting, and they'd come back, and then all this division and whispering and arguing would start. And then we'd sort it out between us. And as soon as we did, because when you start looking at this top down level, control, that's how it thrives, isn't it? That's how it survives, by having, because there's more of us than, let's say, the people who are in charge, for want of a better word.
yeah.
And
And
they're,
you put it perfectly. It is. And that's, that control system is, what runs the entire planet. There's very, very few people pulling the levers. We just don't know who they are, but they have all their little minions that they've either blackmailed or bribed, you know, pulling the levels, down to the country level and then to the state level and to the local level in provinces, depending on where you live. But we have the power, we have the numbers, and that's that's gonna undo the whole thing because you can't stop what's coming. We're moving
yeah,
into a new vibrational situation that they literally can't exist in, that this is just not going to work anymore. And to be honest with you, as challenging as it can be right now, and I am not diminishing that there are people going through really tough stuff right now. However, we are all eternal. This is just a learning, this is a school here on earth. This is where we come to learn the real, the duality lessons. It's very dense here at times. It's all going to be such an exciting journey, and I'm really looking forward to it because every time I read about something coming to light, it's like, there you go, clear that one off the game board. And before you know it, I've talked to some people who you might say, have sort of come from the future in a way or are able to know how this unfolds. I've talked to, like yesterday, I talked to the Pleiadians, which was super exciting. It was like a mountaintop experience for me to be able to talk to them one on one. It's a done deal. It's a done deal how this is all going to I don't want to say end up because it never ends, but we are going to a much higher vibrational place. It's just, we're just sort of playing it out right now. And when I get glimpses from other people who have either come from the future or are aware of the future, the potential of humanity and what we are capable of is extraordinary. I mean, we are the greatest show in the galaxy because of our potential. These bodies we have are so resilient. They're so healthy and so able to come up, to survive in such a toxic environment. We have a very, very, very toxic environment on
mhm,
purpose. It's been made toxic in an effort to try to, keep us down. It's just not working. So people, other collectives are looking at us going, would you look at those Earth humans? They just keep on ticking. And we do. And our potential for creativity, the breadth and depth of the emotions that the Earth humans have rival any collective in the universe. When I was talking to the P's yesterday, that's the Palladians, They said your ability for depth of compassion far exceeds ours. In other words, when you think of an instrument that goes from one end of the scale to the other, we're unparalleled in our ability for emotions, which makes us so powerful because emotions drive energy. And when you understand that we are an energetic being, and once we all start hooking up and we've got all that energy and all that focus and all that emotion, that creativity is just going to be extraordinary. We are on the cusp of creating the most amazing collective on this planet. I think that we're looking at the potential to just be a true divine planet in the middle of the galaxy that's just an absolute Eden with these extraordinary people on it. So,
Oh, wow. I can feel it. It's just beautiful to hear. And I can literally feel it. This seems to be what's happening as more and more of us, I just keep feeling it like it's like layers of what we're not, we're casting off. It's like we've all these big
mhm.
coats that were put on us. And at
Yeah.
different stages, do you sense, just to ask you, Kimberly, that each of us, there's a divine timing for each of us. And
Oh.
for when the light, like what happened with me and even you, and I'm sure various people, you can just go, there was a moment when something sort of went, oh, it's like you popped up out of the matrix
Mhm.
and went,
Yeah.
oh, there's something else here.
Yeah.
Do you
I
sense
think
that
that
that's, yeah.
absolutely. And I
Mm,
think that, we are so supported. I mean, if we could visually see all the other, people, we'll call them people, they're just people. They're, might have different types of bodies. They're just people. If we could see all the people that are supporting us and helping us, it would feel like we were at the biggest party ever. There is so much help on this planet, and our guides are on high alert to make sure that we, move forward in a way. I think it's all divine timing. I think that you do need to participate. I don't think you can just lay on the couch and eat
mm,
processed foods and watch, TV and go along in a way that's maybe for your best in your best interest. I think you need to participate. But I absolutely do think it's divine timing. And when I was actually talking to the Pleiadians yesterday, I said, you know what? I feel like we're outmanned because we we are being controlled by people who have used our money, our tax dollars, our effort, our output to create systems and weapons that are controlling us. It's not a fair fight. And the Pleiadians said, "Oh, I said, I think maybe we need help." And they said, "No, we don't think you do. You got this." So that is just an illustration of not only are we being guided and protected, and when I say protected, I am not kidding. I'm not just talking about your guides. I'm talking about collectives from all around are here, making sure that what happens on Earth has an outcome of the freedom of humanity because we're that important. And what happens here on Earth impacts the entire universe because there's genetic material from so many different collectives on the planet that when we expand, it expands their collective, it informs them. So it's like we are part of this incredible drama that's playing out on Earth. Do we need to participate? Yeah, we do. But we're really, really supported in that. And divine timing, yeah, I think everything almost that's happening
yeah,
right now
yeah.
is
Yeah,
divine
but
timing.
yeah, that's beautiful. I think that helps because sometimes, well, in the early days for me, I spent a lot of time trying to convince people and tell people about different things,
I
and
know, I
which
know.
I didn't even know about myself, like as if I was, you go through that phase. And I suppose what it's brought me back to is that this is all of it is an inner um process, because what happens inside of me is sort of influencing how I'm showing up. So if I'm out there and maybe with good intent, trying to tell somebody this isn't the way it is. Well, I'm obviously stuck in my own judgment. Like, have you found that that's been something very interesting I've noticed recently, and with a number of people I've met, there's more of our own, as the, if you want to say, everything that's playing out is sort of rising up as well in ourselves. No, so no sooner, it's like that energy is sort of supporting that, isn't it, really, that what is not really us has to leave, if I'm
Yeah.
explaining that. So anything, it's not saying bad things, but we're shifting out of that sort of duality. Is that how you would see it, and moving it into sort of, we're still on a planet of duality and polarity. So how do you see that playing out in the future? And I know the consciousness, we're moving to unity conscious and less competition and
Hmm.
less judgment. So I'm feeling that really called up in me now, the sort of, noticing when I'm judging.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's true. I went through that same phase where I was like
Mm.
sending links to every article to all my friends, and they're like, oh my God, it's something from her again. Yeah. And now I really am, it's like I will respond when someone asks.
Mm.
Or if I have a girlfriend, and I have lots of girlfriends that are very awake and aware, we'll share things back and forth because we know that we're interested in that. But like those people that are not really catching on, they'll come to you. They'll come to you when they have questions or when they start getting it. You'll get a little email from them, or maybe they'll pop by for tea and say, you know what, I was thinking about this one thing. And before you know it, they're down the road in understanding what's really going on. I think that it's going to be one of those situations where they'll say, "Well, how did the awakening work?" Well, it was really slow at first and then all at once. It's like, how do you go bankrupt? Well, it's really slow at first, but then all at once. It's the same thing. I think that, and we're seeing that kind of, the snowball is picking up speed. I was actually saying to a girlfriend the other day, it's like, I think I need to start a journal because it's going to go so fast between now and like probably 2026 is what I'm hearing from the different people, the different channels and the different off-planet collectives. About 2026, the dust is going to start settling. It doesn't mean that we won't have challenges or there won't be things that need addressing, but we definitely will have much more clarity on the planet. And, just imagine all the exciting things that are going to happen between now and 2026. And, you had said earlier that, the it was something from Rumi. It's like I've always said, the wisdom is in the wounds. And as challenging as this planet has been, and look at the challenges. You have the health challenges. I've had personal challenges. We've all had challenges. As as exhausting and discouraging as it can be at times, I know the minute I cycle out of this body, I'm gonna be saying, "Ooh, that was fun." I
I
learned so
lived.
much. I learned so much. And
Yeah.
when I think about, I complain all the time about COVID just because it was so unfun. I'm hardwired for fun. That was totally not fun. That was just a not fun thing. And I complain about it a lot, but when I look back, I learned so much through that. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about humanity. I learned so much about the controllers. I learned so much. And I think that we all did. Even
Mm.
those that still think, oh, it was a real thing, or they have a different opinion than I do, they're going to learn so much too in the next year or two. So it's like these challenges are so rich with experience and lessons and wisdom, like it was a big wound, but gosh, look at the wisdom we walked away with.
Yeah. And you have to live it, don't you? Like, there is no, you can read all the books about anything in your life, and there is nothing, and I can say it, and I know it's going to be never ending, but there's a stage you come to where, isn't there, where you start to really embody things that have happened, even as I moved through, I just go back to cancer because it's the one that just changed me a lot. It's taken me 8 or 9 years. I've been in a transition. I still am, but I'm in a different phase of it because so much of what has happened from that has been embodied. So, it's you're speaking, aren't you, from a different place. It's not speaking from here. I read a book and I have to remember all the facts. And because as we all know, you know, anyone can write, that can be it's a very different to the truth that you feel and know in your body. And
Oh my
this
gosh,
is the
isn't
key, isn't it? To me, and I say it to young people even I meet. And I met a woman the other day who works with young children and adults who are sort of quite anxious and struggling. And she said, I'd always say to them, trust how you feel. It is the most important thing. Once we can start, isn't that really? It's like, I don't know why I'm getting the image of, is it the movie Avatar? Was it the first one or so? There's something about, I don't know why that image is coming to me, but it's just just really coming back into the body and knowing it's safe to feel. I think be interested to hear what your view on this is. My sense is that so many of us, if you've been numbed or through trauma, this is what's keeping us out of that state of saying, yeah, I really trust what I'm seeing here and feeling, and then honoring and listening to what you need to do next, what you described, the next door opens the next door. But you have to get to that place, don't you, in yourself, where you've gone from here down into the body and your list, because that's how we're guided. That's our GPS, really. To me, it changed everything, really changed everything.
yeah. And that is so true. I think that that is one of the core control mechanisms that we've experienced on this planet is that continual urging to discount what you're feeling. Oh, just suck it up. You've got to work hard in order to get your 2 weeks vacation. You don't have to like it, just do it. It's it's it is a mantra, I think, around the planet that you need to deny what you're feeling and do this icky thing that you hate doing for some ridiculous outcome that never comes because you can't have a happy ending to an unhappy journey.
Yeah.
It is it is so insidious. And once you get to the place where you realize that if it doesn't feel good, you shouldn't be doing it. It's like
Mm.
everything changes. Everything changes. That sick to your stomach feeling when you're doing something that it's so against your nature. That
Yeah.
sick to gut feeling is there for a purpose to tell you you shouldn't be doing that. And what I'm saying is that that internal guidance system that's right there in that chakra, that solar
Mm.
plexus, boy, that is your roadmap.
That is
And
your.
that's why, I'll get up in the morning and I'll kind of like move my energy around, like, oh, it sounds fun today. What sound, and I'll go do that thing instead of that, oh, I got to go do this thing. I feel sick. I hate it. I hate the people. I hate the whole thing. That's a clue right there. Once you can tune into that guidance system, not only does it feel so much better, but it gets louder. It gets louder and it gets to the point where you can't deny it anymore. And I remember this is how much it has changed for me. I was one of those people that if I had to make a decision, I'd get a pad of paper and I'd draw a line down the middle and I'd write out the pros and the cons, and you'd list all the pros in one side and all the cons in the other side. That is the dumbest way to make a decision. The way that I make a decision now is I just visualize, okay, what about that choice? How does that feel? Okay. What about this choice? How does that feel? Better. I like that. That's better. That's how I make decisions now, and that's how we were designed to make decisions, is that guidance system, because not only are we connecting to the greater part of us, to our higher selves, we're also connecting to our guides, we're connecting to the energy of the universe. That's where the truth lies. It doesn't lie in a pad of paper with pros and cons on the other side. That's the lie. That's the lie, because this up here, all this is a filter. All this does is filter the information coming from your higher self in the universe. It just filters it. Where the decision making happens or the guidance happens is in your gut. And my hand's on my stomach right now. I know you guys can't see that, but that's where it
Yeah.
is here. And the freedom and joy and the difference in the tone and texture of your life, once you start moving from your gut, from your guidance system, is extraordinary. Everything starts falling into place.
It does, doesn't it? It just, and you're such an example of it, Kimberly. I really love having conversations, and I'm finding that more and more I'm meeting people like that. And you just know it, as you said, you just feel it. There is no other way to live. And it's a muscle that once you sort of build it, I often say, even try a small little thing in your day, maybe at the beginning, if it's something
Mm-hmm.
too big, just play around with it with something that isn't going to have huge consequences, like walking out of a job. And it does give you confidence, doesn't it, to start?
Yeah.
Because I'd love it as well if you just would touch on the theme of abundance. That just keeps coming in as I'm hearing it, because I think this is another block for many people who will say, yes, I hear you. Yeah, follow this. But, I have bills to pay. And because we've sort of been reverse engineered in back to front, it's like there's this feeling I have to do all of this, and then the abundance will come. And it's been a
Mm-hmm.
huge, I have to say, growth area in my own life. I have to say, I did not have that mastered and still don't for many years. And I'm understanding now it's much more about receiving. I know the universe is abundant because I feel it now. I didn't feel it before. And anything
Mm-hmm.
that is blocking that is probably more my own fears of worth. I think it goes back to worthiness and self-worth. So
Mm-hmm.
for somebody who may be in that sort of, but I can't do it until this happens, how would
Yeah.
you, what might you say to them?
Yeah. And I think that that's one of the trickier things because of the energetic pattern of the humans. And when we are working with our energy system, there's a lot going on. It's not just, what do I want? It's all the things that you haven't been able to attain that are sitting in your energy pattern, in your frequency field. It's a complicated issue. But what I could say, if I was if I was in a place where I was working at a job I hated and I was making very little money and living in a flat that didn't feel good, I would start with the little things. Like, all right, I'm going to go out for lunch. Which place sounds more fun? And I think about this place, and whichever one gave me that sort of little giddy feeling or that little happy feeling, I'd go there. What am I going to do after work today? I could go for a jog or I could go grocery shopping. Which one feels a little bit better? And it doesn't have to be better by a lot, just better by a little bit.
Mhm.
And you start building the muscles that way. It's like starting a exercise program. You're not going to be lifting 200 pounds to start with. You're going to have the little 2-pound weights and you're going to go there. So it's just a matter of developing that guidance system, understanding how to work that magic you have within you. And it starts slow. It started slow for me. I did things for decades that I was just like, oh, getting out of bed was horrible because I didn't want to
Mhm.
go do that thing to make the money to pay the bills and blah, 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 blah. But what happens over time is you develop that guidance system, and pretty soon you can no longer do things that you that don't feel good to you. You just simply can't do them. You can't hang around people that suck your energy anymore. You simply can't. You just can't. And it develops over time. And it doesn't mean you get up and you quit your job and you go live on the street. It means you start making the changes in a way that's going to work for you. And it snowballs, I promise you, because your
Mhm.
higher self and your guides are looking out for you. That's their job. You are the game, you are the avatar. You're the player in this field. And what you do is not just you. It doesn't just impact you. It impacts your entire genetic line. and that genetic line impacts the entire universe. This is a whole system that is working in your favor. And every experience that you have, that informs the rest of the universe. Everything that you do builds the knowledge of the universe. It all gets banked in experience. So know that you've got a whole team on your side. They want to work with you. Take it as slowly as you need to, make sure it's comfortable, but know that if your desire is to have a life that feels yummy and good, you will be sent on that path. You have no idea how it's going to unfold. And I'm sure you've had this experience where it's like you wanted something and all of a sudden you get it and you go, well, I never would have thought it would have come that way. There's no way you could have come up with that. It's like,
Absolutely.
there's no
Always.
way. It's always, it cracks me up because it's always so much more creative and clever than I
Yeah.
ever could have thought of. So
Yeah.
it's that trust. And I know trust is hard because we've been living in a very untrustworthy system.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you start trusting yourself and those in spirit, those energetically supporting you, it turns into magic. It just
Yeah.
does.
And have you some tips? Because you obviously, I had meant to ask you that earlier, but you've answered it really because you had been interviewing, you said so many people you had such an interest in near death experiences and psychics and mediums. So was that ability always, I mean, I believe we all have that once we tune in and raise up to it. How did that unfold for you, or how did you discover that ability? You said you were talking to the Pleiadians now, and how
You
is
know,
that? Yeah.
to be honest with you, I have no idea. I worked as an illustrator in the gift and paper products industry for almost 3 decades. And I didn't talk to anybody. I was in my studio coloring. I'd take the kids to school and go home and sit in my studio and color. It wasn't like I was talking to people all the time. I think that it was that thing that I just talked about. I just followed the breadcrumbs.
Mm.
And I must have been a talker in a past life or something because I feel like they tagged me to do this. They
Mm.
said, "Okay, you're going to go do this thing and you're going to talk to these people because this information needs to get out so other people can hear it." And the funny thing is with this second channel that I have, the Journey to the New Earth, I call it my second channel, the one we're talking about today, just because I've been doing the other channel for so long, or 5 years. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about the metrics. I only do that which I have been tasked to do, which is talk to people on the internet about our journey to the new earth. That's
Yes.
all I do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's just because that's my assignment. And I've
Yeah.
been given everything I need to complete this task, even to the point of silly little things like the computer that I'm using to do this interview on is the one I use to do all the interviews on. It was a computer I purchased that I ended up not using because it didn't have enough storage for what I needed. So I tucked it away in a drawer and I realized, oh my gosh, I bought that because they knew I was going to be doing this and I needed a dedicated computer. It's like those are the silly things
Yeah.
that you recognize. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got everything I need. You just could never have designed it in such a clever way to get everything there, nor could you have, figured out where you were going. You just keep following that
Yes, the
next
breadcrumb
breadcrumb.
trail. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
what
weird.
it is, no, it's the exact same. Even the desk that I'm sitting at here really was meant to be a kitchen table for another house that I didn't use, and I kept in a cardboard box. And
See?
I went to use this and make it into a little office, and I went, "What's that?" It's my desk. And it's been sitting there for years. So I totally get you. So for
Yeah.
anyone listening, it is so the truth. What I meant also really was as well more your connection when you talked about to the Palladians, and you've obviously had that ability, when you're saying here to people, to listen and follow the guidance. So you've had that very because many people might say, well, I don't have that axe. I don't understand how to do that, or I'm aware
Yeah.
of how to do it.
Yeah. That's just that's another thing. You just start really slow.
Mm,
And it starts with, you get a niggling, like, oh, they keep telling me
mm,
to go call this person, or why do I keep wanting to call Bob? I haven't talked to Bob
mm.
in 3 years. Why,
So
why is
yeah,
Bob in my brain? They're so clever. I mean, your team
yeah,
is so clever.
yeah.
And it's just following those little nudges. And, for me, I was journaling every single day, journaling, journaling, journaling. And then I'm journaling and I'm getting these words in my head that aren't my words. It's like, so I'm getting these words and I'm getting the word bitterroot. I'm journaling. I'm getting the word bitterroot. Bitterroot? What's bitterroot? I don't even know what bitterroot is. It keeps coming in my head. Bitterroot, bitterroot. So I finally write it down. Well, I look up bitterroot. Bitterroot is the state flower of Montana, which is where I was living. And I had just moved there a few weeks ago. Someone telling me they know exactly where I am. So
Mm.
that's how it starts.
Yeah,
The
and to trust
silly,
that, I suppose, because
yeah,
many people might say, well, that's what is that? That's just coincidence. But it's like, yeah, I've had the same experience. I suppose it's just opening ourselves up to the possibility of whatever you believe it is or isn't, but there is no doubt we are, once you connect in and plug in,
yeah,
unplug, I often say to the old,
and
um,
plug into the new. And those voices in your head are not all you. You may think they are. They're not.
Yeah,
It's not all
yeah.
you.
Yeah, yeah. So look, I won't hold you too much longer. I just wanted to ask you, Kimberly, before we finish, what's your what are you excited for in the next couple of years for yourself? What's lighting you up right now?
That's such a good question because I have a new answer that just came to me a few days ago. I've been involved in the changes on the planet since probably like 2019 and just watching and learning a lot. I'm very, very aware of what's going on around the planet. I try to keep track. But I really realized just a couple of days ago that the very, very best thing I can do for humanity is to go hiking and kayaking because those are the things that I love to do. And if I am out hiking and kayaking, my vibration, my energy is exactly in my happy place. And the more I do that, the more that impacts the collective. So, what I want to encourage each and every person watching to do, and I know this is going to sound silly, but please just try it. Do what you love doing. If that's crocheting, if it's doing a puzzle, if it's walking with your dog, if it's having a cup of tea with a neighbor, go do that and do it more because that frequency that you're at when you're doing that, that is golden for the planet. And
Mm,
if we all start doing that, it's going to become such a high vibe place that the controllers can't even get enough oxygen
you
to
won't be able to
exist.
find us.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. And you've really touched on because I found that because I have been so programmed to like this 9 to 5 way I had to work, it took years for me after cancer to not feel the guilt of I'm doing something different at a different time I've been told to. It has been so difficult to unravel that. And I have, well, I'm in the process of it because what I've noticed, just as you said, if I take a day and I listen to my body, which we talked about and how I feel, and if I get this urge to do, like you said, go for a walk, what usually will happen is like 4 or 5 things will happen that need to happen. They're literally one after the other, like dominoes. Could be someone calls, this happens, that happens. And I could have sat or I meet someone and they say something that sets me on a little road. Whereas if I sat at my desk going, I have to do this,
Ah,
and you start to feel really burnt out, every single time I just notice what it needs to be done gets done. And it is to trust that, isn't we're not designed to be 9 to 5.
yeah.
If you love that, absolutely. But yeah, that's wonderful advice. Thank you so much, Kimberly. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. And what contact points would you like to? I'll include them all in the show notes where people
Yeah.
can make contact with you.
Well, you can definitely find me on YouTube at Journey to the New Earth. We probably do a couple videos every week. I try to do one interview and then one live video. And we also have a community, which is actually really a lot of fun. If you feel like you can't find anybody to talk to or no one gets you, you might want to check out our community on the Locals platform. It's a censorship-free platform. It's a lot like Facebook where we all get together and chat. It's journeytothenewearth.locals.com, journeytothenewearth.locals.com. We're a great group of people over there. If you just need a gang to hang with, we're there for you. Come on over and join us.
Perfect. Thank you, Kimberly. And thank you,
Okay.
everyone, for listening.
Yeah.
And until the next time, take care for now.
All righty. Bye, everyone.